Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of DFS MLB Baseball. It's your buddy Chop It On coming at you with Chop Talk for Friday. It's a freebie Friday. It's a follow Friday. Come out to Twitter, give me a follow, give me a like, give me a subscribe, all that good stuff that you guys always do. And we are going to run through chin music today really quickly. I want to go game by game in this video to give you something different than what you're going to read. But what I wanted to show you in chin music today was going down and picking up the differences between the slates. Main slate, express slate, late slate. Let's see how our concepts change. Do we look for different hitters? Do we look for different batters? Do different levels of cream rise to the top as we take on bigger and smaller player pools? How does it all intertwine together? That is all written up in chin music today. Jump out to Twitter, read the article, go to dfsarmy.com/ref/3. Follow the link in the comments section of the video. Use the coupon code CHOP. CHOP if you want to become a VIP in the growing DFS industry. DFSarmy.com is the place to be, where coaching, community, and stats and tools and optimizers all come together to make you a better DFS player. Over 20 coaches and contributors all the time talking DFS 24/7 in our Slack chat channels, which you can see right here, always buzzing, always rolling, to get you on the right track to becoming a better player. Stop taking those handouts from those lineup sellers and those crappy little leeches at the bottom of the pool, and jump up, take some pride in your work, do it yourself. Let's jump in and go game by game. You can read the slate interaction stuff if you want to. Go game by game. Let's talk a little bit about who we're focused on. I'm going to tell you from the research that I've already done kind of who to focus on and where it might prioritize. Let's address the main slate. I might slide a little express or late slate stuff in there. What I'm assuming today is that the express and the late slate are going to go by the 8 o'clock hour and the 10 o'clock hour. That's usually what they do. Sometimes they mix and match. Sometimes we get a little bit of an outlier game here or there to make it a little bit bigger slate. But it looks like tonight we're going to have a 14-game main slate, which is huge. That can be overwhelming to people that are just beginning. Oh my God, all these names, all this information, everything to process. Well, don't play them. Play the smaller slates. I personally would love it if Fanduel or DraftKings would start doing 5 and 6 game slates. I know they have the technology to do it. They're just being lazy butts. And give me something manageable. Three games is oftentimes a little bit too small. 4's okay. 5 and 6 kind of is the sweet spot. 7, 8's good. Now 9, 10, 11, you're starting to get a little bit large. So give me some of those medium-sized slates. I don't care if they're AL only, NL only, if they're just like they did last year with the themes of only animals, so it was like Cubs and Cardinals and stuff. Those were fun slates. Let's get back to some of those. I've got the research tools at dfsarmy.com to break it down any way I want to and see who's the best of the best. And that's what I'll show you when we get to the Freebie Friday. So let's blow through these games and let's show you how to manage up some of this stuff so that you hopefully become a VIP today so that you can get up and running tonight and start winning this evening and this weekend. So when we look at the Milwaukee Brewers and the Cubs, we're going to X that game out. It's a day slate. There's not really anything going. It may be on an all-day slate. I don't really care. I don't want to play the Cubs that bad. When I look over here at the Cardinals, let's look at a little bit of weather. We've got wind blowing kind of out the left, mostly crosswind, 62, somewhat humid, not great, 50-50 shot at showers. So you may or may not want to take Michaelis or Brault. They're neither one on my radar today. In fact, neither one of these teams hit my radar today. But if you wanted to play Cardinals, I'll tell you, Tommy Pham is a machine. He's still underpriced at 4.2K. Jose Martinez has slacked off a little bit. Ozuna's heating up, so that's a good value at 3,400. Fowler's given a little bit here and there. DeYoung is really boom or bust. 7-hole hitter, 4K. I think I can pass. I can find better value on the slate unless I was running some kind of a GPP stack where I wanted to run Pham, Ozuna, and DeYoung. Jerko's a pretty good value. He's a little boom or bust. He either hits it out or doesn't even get on base at all, kind of like DeYoung. Those are neat little tourney stacks, but I don't think I'm going to pay 4K for that. When I look at Pittsburgh, they're all right. Michaelis has been pretty good if you look at his numbers. Started off a little rough in spring, got it right. I think he's 3-0. He's got a pretty decent ERA this year too. Now, it doesn't mean he can't implode, but I don't see him imploding to the Pirates. The Pirates, if you watch our trending tool inside the research station that I'm going to show you, if you watch our trending tool, you're going to notice that the Pirates have really cooled off. Really cooled off. So I might be off of Pirates today. When I look at Arizona Diamondbacks and Washington Nationals, Godley and Strasburg, I don't make a habit. I don't make a hobbit. That's your Frodo tip of the day. I don't make a habit of stacking against Strasburg. Okay, that's kind of suicide. Godley's a decent enough pitcher. Washington's a little bit cold outside of a game or so they've had recently. I don't see them being games that I want to dive into and attack. The implied run total, the game total of a 7, the implied run totals under 4 are telling me the same thing. I can be off the game. Atlanta and Philly. It was all right the other day and we didn't have a lot to pick from, but Teheran, Nola is good at times. You've got a 4, Man, I'm sorry to grunt and gripe, but it's not tripping my trigger today. These are not soft enough pitchers that I want to really get excited about stacking them. Could the game go 6-4 or 8-6? Sure. But the odds of it being a little bit lower scoring are great. Look at the 7.5 total. Let that be your guide. Nola may be in play in deeper stuff that you might be trying to do. But generally speaking, we're going to stick to the studs up top because you pay for pitching because you generally get what you pay for. Detroit Tigers, Baltimore Orioles. There's a little bit of something here because Chris Tillman's not that great. Mike Fiers not that great. Baltimore's been a little cold lately. Now, I might check some BVP type numbers, and see if any of Baltimore is running better than usual. Click by at-bats, look down. I want larger sample sizes, so none of this stuff really matters much to me. I see a 575 wall, but Danny Valencia, if he gets the start, definitely in play for some GPPs. Looks like a one-off because it doesn't look like there's a lot there. Really to speak of. I might look a little bit into Baltimore and see if any of their guys are running hot. I think I was looking last night, and I didn't see much that I liked in terms of guys getting on base when it comes to Baltimore. Maybe I'll show you how I do that sometime. Detroit's in a very good spot tonight, but Detroit, they need to be ripping the cover off the ball, which I think they have been lately. You've got your, Leonis Martin's had a couple of good games, but Candelario, Cabrera, Castellanos is always pretty much in play. I don't really like a lot of the stuff down in the bottom half of the lineup. I'd probably focus on 2, 3, 4 hitters here, maybe a little bit of the 1. They're affordable under 4K. We'll see how the research station likes them in a little while. Texas and Toronto didn't hit my radar, believe it or not. You got a decent implied total here on Toronto. Mike Minor, probably not the best pitcher on the slate just by looking at it at a glance. Stroman, not soft enough that I want to attack him. Some of these guys are definitely in play. But I don't know how they stack up against everybody else because what you're going to do, you need to get in the habit of taking what the slate gives you. Don't lock onto your favorite team and say, I love Blue Jays. If the Blue Jays are in, say, a B-, C+ kind of matchup today, then you don't be taking them. You need to be looking at the A-, B+, A+ type matchups. We'll find those as we dive down the slate. As indicated, the 9.5 is an okay game to look at. The 8.5, maybe not so much. We got 14 games to choose from. We're going to have to just lop some of them off and not worry about them. And if they go off, they go off. Odds are, if we stick to more obvious stuff as, beginning players and whatever else, what you're going to find is you're going to be on the chalk. And when you're on the chalk, you're insulated by that ownership. And when you're insulated by that ownership, another game goes 12-10 and you look at it and it didn't affect you too much. Sure, it helped some guy win $100,000 in a tournament, but we're not typically focused on those types of games anyway. What we're looking for is being competitive, hitting the 50-50 lines, hitting the double-ups, maybe triple-ups, maybe quintuple-ups, things like that. And we want to start spot focusing on bigger leagues, 20-man leagues, 100-man leagues, maybe small GPPs of maybe 2,000 people or under. If you're chasing the 20,000-person GPP, you're playing a lottery ticket. Just understand that, because whatever freaky thing happens, Scooter Gennett hits 4 bombs like he did last year, somebody's got it. Somebody's going to win the tournament on that play almost alone. You need to understand that. Looking at Tampa Bay and Boston, we got a little bit of rain chance. Now, here's one thing I'll tell you. As the rain chances fade off, this game may draw a late start, and then it may be fine. Now, is Pomeranz or Snell 2 pitchers you're really targeting tonight? Probably not. Is the wind blowing in at 9 miles an hour something you're going to target for bats? Maybe not. But you can't argue with the way Boston's been playing lately. 4.75 IRT, implied run total, -160 favorite, tells you they should win the game and they should score 4 or 5 runs. If that's the case, load them up. But guess what? They are expensive. Woo! Pricey. I don't know what to tell you when it comes to loading up on these guys. Maybe you're down here in the bottom part of the order. Then now you're going away from an optimal lineup with the top 5 guys focused. You're kind of getting into the 6, 7, 8 guys, and it's a little suboptimal. Could it work? Sure. This is where you want to focus, though, up top, if you're really wanting to pile in the at-bats, pile in the opportunities. Colorado on the road going into Miami. Colorado is in a little better spot than this indicates. Why? Miami is bad. Miami gives up far more runs than they score. Miami's giving up quite a bit of runs. I'm not saying stack them up blindly, but I'm saying don't count them out. Colorado isn't necessarily just a Coors team. They definitely get a boost there. Miami's not a great hitting environment inside that dome, but nobody's going to be here. If you wanted to play a GPP, this might be something I'd look at. I know Charlie Blackmon's in a good spot, and he's not running that great. Prices are depressed a little bit. You know, David Dahl's in a great spot. Might be a little mini stack right there, Blackmon Dahl, and you have that ownership pretty much to yourself tonight. Nobody plays the Rockies on the road. Nobody plays people in Miami Marlins Stadium. They think it's a horrible hitting environment. Blackmon and Dahl can hit it out of any park, under any situation. So you're going to get them at a little bit lower ownership. And look at their numbers. Dive in a little bit deeper. Seattle and Cleveland looks like a rain issue there. The red here, the 60s, 50s, and 70s and stuff, that now it fades off a little bit late, but it doesn't fade off completely. You're probably okay for bats here. Game probably plays, but I wouldn't be targeting Corey Kluber tonight with that weather. That's just me. I can't take a 0 out of my pitcher. I can't have the game get postponed in the 4th inning and everything go to 0. I can have that happen on a bat or two. I cannot have that happen. And the reason why you target the bats and not the pitchers in this spot, the pitchers are not going to go out, pitch 3 innings, come out, sit for 45 minutes or 2 hours, go back out, warm up, and do it again. They're going to shut them down. It's a $20 million arm. They're going to shut it down. They're going to say, we're going to protect our pitcher. We'll go bullpen from here. The bats will go back out. The bats will go 3 innings, go play gin rummy for a little while, or maybe poker, who knows. And then they'll come back. They should be watching video, but come on, let's be honest, they're probably not. You're going to come back out a little bit later. You're going to play another inning or two. Whoop, pull the tarp back out on the field. Let's go play some gin, man. You owe me $80. Then come back out, finish up the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. The bats can do that. The pitching arms cannot. That's why that's more of a risk to pitching arms than it is to bats. Bats are probably fine here. Game probably plays. Pitching is a little bit suspect. I don't like any of the stuff in here, though, to be honest with you. Oakland and Houston, this is getting into the late slate, or the medium slate, the express slate. So we need to reevaluate. We haven't seen any pitchers that we're all that excited about on the main, and we haven't seen a lot of bats we're all that excited about on the main. So what we're looking at, I think, is a late night. Lots of stuff. So what we're going to probably find out on this little 3-game slate, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, unless it picks up this game or picks up another game, I don't see that being any more than a 3-game express slate. So when I'm looking at these particular guys, what I want to see is Manaea, people are going to chase points. Keuchel, minus 158 favorite. Okay, probably people are going to look at him a little bit. When I scroll down here, Danny Duffy, probably not. Ronaldo Lopez, probably not. In fact, those are pretty good targets. Phil Hughes, great target. Luis Castillo, minus 103. He's got some strikeout potential. I don't know that he's going to be the lead dog on your slate, but at a 6.9K, he does afford you to get in here to this game. But I would probably be a little bit more focused on these 2 9s because they've got the softer pitching. And I might be a little bit more – I don't trust the Twins for nothing. They might explode, and on a 3-game slate, that's great. If Luis Castillo was the top dog pitching, you'd probably stack against him with Minnesota, and you might be all right, once a week by doing something like that. And that's all it takes to win GPPs. So it's very easy on these small slates to find the chalk stack against it. But I don't see dominating chalk when I look at these pitchers. Manaea is good, obviously. Keuchel can be good. I don't know how high I'm going to be on Oakland or Houston bats today. On that 3 games, so maybe a one-off here or there. Maybe you can dig into some versus left or some BVP and figure out where you want to go. But I think that the bats are, and the pitching may come out of that top game. It may come out of Luis Castillo, but the bats are going to come out of Cincinnati and then probably Chicago and maybe some Kansas City. Although Kansas City, man, I will say this, on a 3-game slate, Moustakas is definitely in play. Ronaldo gives up a high ISO to left-handed bats, and Mike Moustakas has a high ISO and a left-handed bat. So he might be one of my lead dogs, and then Cincinnati's in a great spot. Not exactly a hitter's park up there in Minnesota. No weather concerns. Wind's blowing out in Kansas City. 26% humidity is a little dry, but wind blowing out at 11. And trust me when I tell you Kansas City's windier than 11 miles per hour. Probably a little stiffer breeze blowing out than that. Blowing out to right, this might be the game I target. When I look down here at these guys, Winker, Peraza has been okay, but he doesn't hit for power. Votto's in a good spot. Jeanette, Suarez is still awfully low priced. That's insane. 2K for Suarez. Just lock him in, all in. Duvall, Schebler. Okay, now you're getting into some. You got a top 1 through 7 in this. You can stack the hell out of this offense. When I come over here, I'm not that interested in it, especially if I run Castillo as a pitcher. Maybe there's a one-off here or there. I think that Kepler's all right. I think Morrison might be all right. So if you're using one of the Houston, Oakland pitchers, maybe you can come down here and dip in for a one-off or two. Chicago, you've got your Moncada down in there. That's the name everybody knows. Davidson double-donged last night. Beef has been hitting all right. Abreu looks like he might be back. So your middle-of-the-order stuff. Trace Thompson hit a home run last night. So your middle-of-the-order is stackable. Danny Duffy's not a great pitcher. You might focus on the right-handed bats here. When I look over at Kansas City, they are cheap. They're cheap for a reason. But Salvi Perez, Mike Moustakas, man, I keep waiting for Duda to kick it into gear. Soler, look at his on-base percentage. Go look at his on-base percentage. He's a great one-off on any slate. But that's probably what I'm looking at when it comes to these sorts of things. And when I dip down here, now we're going to start getting into the late games. New York and LA, this is going to be popular for bats most likely, even though Haney hasn't been a terrible pitcher. He hasn't been great. Severino is not a bad pitcher. I didn't see him in any of the research that I did. He didn't pop high enough. He didn't grade out high enough, but he's definitely playable. The Yankees are always going to be popular. You're looking at 56% humidity out in LA, a 65-degree day with the wind blowing out. Little bit of a helper. The higher the humidity, the better the ball flies. When the wind's blowing out, it's a good thing. I know it's not a real stiff breeze or anything, but it's a little bit of an extra push. A warning track ball might sneak over the fence. Coming over here into the Padres in New York, a big stadium, 7 over-under because DeGrom is pitching. DeGrom's going to be your ace of the slate. Ryu, Holland, DeGrom, Richard, Haney, Severino. DeGrom's your ace of the slate. Now, you want the once-in-a-week type opportunity, stack against him in some kind of a GPP. Go reserve it now, reserve it early, because once it fills, they don't open back up. But get on that late slate once it opens up. Pop in there for a tourney or two, and if you want, stack up against DeGrom. Do it on a single entry type tourney. Go Ultimate Contrarian. You'll have all the bats to yourself. It could happen. Will it happen? Probably not. But it could happen, and if it does, you're positioned to win a tournament. Now, in your cash games, you might go take another. Let's say we took $1 and threw it at a single entry GPP and went ultra contrarian, because DeGrom's going to be probably the ace of the entire main slate too. He's certainly going to be the ace on this 3-game late slate. So when everybody goes there and they don't have other options, see, they won't be as highly owned on the main slate as he is on the late slate, because people don't have any options on the late slate. They do a little bit, Ryu and Severino, but his ownership is going to be higher. Therefore, everybody gets pigeonholed into the same lineup construction. They're going to spend $10,600 for a pitcher, which means they're not going to be able to afford Yankee bats, which means they're not going to be able to probably afford some of the Dodger bats, which means they're probably not going to be in as great optimal positions as they're not going to afford Mike Trout or some of the Angels bats for that matter. So it looks like they're going to end up taking some Giants and then one-offing bottom of the order type stuff unless some cheap guy comes up in the top. That's kind of what you're going to have to do with DeGrom. Fine. You want to do that in your cash games and hide with the herd and then maybe have the one player or two players that makes you different? I love doing that. And I might do that with, say, $10. But then or $100, whatever your bankroll is. But I would take, say, 10% of that, or maybe even less. If I was playing $100, I might only take $5 and throw it in that contrarian stack. Because if the unthinkable happens and DeGrom bombs, guess who's benefiting? The Padres. And what this is going to do is you're going to force you to pick a different pitcher. You're going to pick cheaper bats. You're going to pick a different pitcher like a Ryu at 7.8. It's going to get you $3,000 extra for bats. You're going to end up taking somebody that's going to do the damage. Some of the power hitters, Villanueva, Will Myers, maybe a little Freddie Galvis. Who knows? Do Austin Hedges. Do some of your research. If those are the guys that blow up against DeGrom and the unthinkable happens, you're set up to take this stack all the way to the house. And you've got $3,000 extra to play with and some cheap bats over here. Bang! You come right over here. You finish it off with some chalky Yankees or some extra chalky Dodgers. You take the floor that these two offenses are going to provide. You sprinkle in the little 3 or 4 stack from the San Diego Padres. If DeGrom implodes tonight, you win, or at least your odds of winning are significantly increased. Okay, now, if things go according to plan, DeGrom has a good day, and nobody can get into the Yankees bats except for 1 or 2 spots, or the Dodgers bats in 1 or 2 spots, and they end up taking some Dodgers and stuff, then everybody's just going to be kind of fighting over the crumbs that are left up over the slate. If you want the lion's share and you want the big chunk of meat, the big honking piece of meat, hang your balls out there and take some Padres. Okay? There's your tips for today. Let's dive into the research station. Let's show you why we think that. When I come down here and I unload, I'll take everything here. These are my batters matchups. This is the proprietary information that the guys inside the DFS Army get on a daily basis. This is how we use this beast. I'll show you a few things, a few tricks. When I turn that off, all of the games come open to me. Okay? And once all the games come open to me, now I can knock that 220 game off, and now I'm looking at the main slate. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to scroll over here for a couple of things. I'm going to look at these DFSA grades, and I'm going to start establishing tiers. 90 and above. Okay, I love me Votto, Winker, Cabrera, and Castellanos today. Look at that. We already talked about Detroit and Cincinnati. I'm going to scroll down here a little further and look in the upper 80s. Come down here, don't know why that's a little bit out of order, but come all the way down here, mid-80s. Let's call it about here. Duvall, Hoskins, Kemp, Barnes, Jeanette, more Reds. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further, and here's what I'm going to show you another look. Let's go position by position today, and we'll stick to the main slate because this is how we can sift through that information. You can use all the theory and hand build and do whatever on those express and the late night slates and probably do okay. But what I'm trying to show you here is how we're going to break these tiers off, and I like to stick with people that are kind of above a 75. So I might come down to about a Brad Zimmer, Wilson Ramos, Jose Ramirez, and I might call it. Gary Sanchez didn't rate out high enough today. Doesn't mean he won't find his way on the smaller slates. You want to put together a main slate lineup and you like Yankees, but you can't justify them being in just as good a spot as other people. Then you go play a little bit on that late slate and you then load your Yankees over there. Okay, that's how you use those slates in conjunction with each other to build an overall portfolio. This is things we talk about and things we coach people on inside the Army. Build an overall portfolio tonight equally exposed to a lot of different slates, and then one of them might do well and one of them might not. But you're not so eggs in one basket that you're boom or bust. You're spread out. You're building a portfolio of players. You're building a portfolio of games that you're attacking, and you're doing a couple of different things, and you're balancing it within your daily budget. Say your daily budget's $100. You put, 25 or 30 bucks on the main slate, and then another, 40 bucks on the express, and another 30 on the late night slate. You mix and match. You build different lineups and different constructions, and something might hit. Some mix might work out for you. And those slates, you might end up putting out that $100 across 3 slates tonight, and you might pull back 150. Most people think that sucks. That's a $50 profit. That ain't bad. You can do that in cash games only. You sprinkle in a couple of GPPs here or there in case you hit the lotto ticket, and boom, you might end up coming back with a couple of $1,000. It happens every night to people. I see it inside the Army daily. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to focus a little bit on the main slate because that's where all the information needs to get processed, okay? So we've seen the Reds are up there. We've seen another way you can do this, honestly, is just come up here to the top of the page. Cincinnati, Cincinnati, Detroit, Detroit, Cincinnati, Cincinnati, Dodgers, Dodgers. These are the 3 offenses we were talking about. Cincinnati, Detroit, Detroit, LA, Cincinnati. Here come the Dodgers. Are starting to sneak in there a little bit. As I scroll back down, there's a little bit of Boston, Detroit again, Boston. Let's see, I already mentioned that. There's Cincinnati again. There's Colorado with Blackman. Told you he had a good matchup. Dodgers, Yankees. So we're starting to mix and match a little bit. But look at what's all focused at the top. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bust these off into tiers, though. These guys all have great matchups. Doesn't mean they won't perform, or doesn't mean they will perform. They often don't. It is baseball. 30% of the time you get a hit, you get the desired outcome. God, less than that for home runs. So really and truly, we're chasing our tails. But this, if you play across the season, if we ran this scenario 100 times, 162 times, Cincinnati and Detroit, and maybe the Dodgers are going to have the better. Now, are the Pittsburgh Pirates going to come out of nowhere someday and score 10 runs? Maybe. But over the course of 162 scenarios, Cincinnati and Detroit and LA should be where you're sticking your bats. Because that's what's going to work out most of the time. That's how you play DFS. You just run the numbers and hope the numbers pan out according to plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little trick here. I'm going to go position by position. See if I can cut that down. Since first base and catchers are combined on Fanduel, I combine them here on this sheet, and now I want to see who my top 4 or 5 guys are. I'm going to grade this out by tier because there's something that I want to show you. I'm going to come over here to the DFSA grade. I'll show you some of the other stats here in a second too. But I've got 90, 99, and then boom, a break. Big, decent break. So Votto and Cabrera are tops on the slate. 98 and 94, not a big difference. Is one significantly cheaper than the other? No. So I'm going to run whichever one I'm going to want to stack. Okay, in whatever lineup I want to do. Now I'm going to come down here to the mid-80s to the maybe 80 to 85 range. And now what am I looking at? Barnes, Flores, Grandal. If I wanted to cheap out on first base or use it in my utility spot, I might be looking at these couple of guys. But when I start pigeonholing in together into this tighter range, I'm going to start. Now they're all supposedly going to do about similar things. Now I'm looking for the cheap guys. Okay, now up top, if I really want the good matchup, I'm going to pay for it. If I want the next best matchup in that second tier, I go all the way down here to Carlos Santana. But why would I pay $3,600 for Grandal? Now, if I'm completing a stack, I would do that. But I'm not completing a stack necessarily because I've already got Votto in there or something. Or maybe I'm trying to, target Detroit and I want Victor Martinez because he's cheaper. I could run Victor Martinez and Miggy in the same lineup and use them in the utility spot. Okay, but or if I've got some depth here and I've got some value here, so I might not need to spend up at that spot and grab the Votto and Miggy. I think I do with DFSA ratings in the 90s. But look, we got a couple more that are coming up here in the upper 80s for second base. Scooter Gennett, Dixon Machado. Now we drop into the 70s, and look at the tier break from 85 to 80. Down to 73, and then right 2 more batters right out of the 70s. So this is a pretty thin position tonight. Okay? These guys are not in great matchups down here. I'm going to want to stick to the top here. Probably top 2, maybe top 3 batters. Affordable? Okay, a little affordable in Machado and Kipnis, but Machado, as we saw, didn't hit at the top of the order. If I go over here back to, where were they, the White Sox? That was Detroit, wasn't it? Where, oh where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone? I searched the world for Detroit. There we go. Dixon Machado, bottom of the order. Might not be what I want to do. I might want to focus on more at-bats and grab me a Gennett. I'm going to pay a little more for it. Grab me a Kipnis. Kipnis leads off for Cleveland, does he not? Where, oh where are you tonight? Now, I won't sing to you again because that's probably making you guys all click off of the thing. And we've got weather concerns. Kipnis, second in the order. I would rather take a 2-hole hitter than a 9-hole hitter, unless he's completing a stack. If he's completing a stack and I'm running something like a Machado, Candelario, Miggy flip, like a little wrap type stack, not a true wrap, but kind of a gap wrap, I would do that. But if I was just one off in second base, I'd probably take Kipnis for the batting order. They're both in the same matchup, more or less, as you can tell by the DFSA grades. Both in about the same matchups. Both about the same price. So my tiebreaker, unless I can find BVP or better splits, my tiebreaker is going to be batting order. 2-hole beats 9-hole. Kipnis it is. Okay? And when I run over to third base and take a look over here, going to do the exact same thing. Candelario jumps right to the top, doesn't he? Moose is the 3rd rated one. Oh, that's interesting. Now they're all bunched together. 85. Okay, so now third base is a little weaker position tonight. We don't have any upper 80s. We don't have any 90s in ratings. So now I can really afford to play around. I've got 84 to 82 in my ratings. Now, I'm trying to stay in top 5 as much as I can. This is just how you use this simple little tool. Oh, Kiki. Why spend the money? Suarez, hello. Why spend the money if you don't have to? The only reason you would spend the money is because you've got a tip on the guy's going to hit tonight. I mean, you take a look at Candelario and the starting pitcher, for crying out loud, is giving up a 458 WOBA. Problem is, Candelario's only hitting 360 himself. And his ISO's right under 200, which is good. I really and truly should be a little better matchup than that. But it's not. There's other things that are factored into these DFSA grades. There's other things that are factored into the rating systems that tell us that it maybe isn't quite the green light that we're thinking. It's a good green light. But if it's no different than the green light that Kiki Hernandez is, why not save $900? Certainly what I would be looking to do. So when I look at my shortstops, Lindor jumps to the top. Iglesias, Machado. Well, you're going to pay for Machado, man. It might be worth it. You might be banking some value in some of these other spots so that you can then come up. Where'd my DFSA grade go? There it is. Oh, yuck. Even worse. Lindor at an 80 is the highest, and then we're jumping all the way down to the 70s, and we even get into the low 70s before long. You might look down here at your Pennington, DeYoung, Correa, Peraza. Peraza's probably pretty cheap. Seager, Story. You might avoid the top of this one altogether if it's pricey. 4,000. Goodbye. I'd rather take the 2,500. Now, again, we're top of the order versus bottom of the order hitters. But now look here, if I can find some of the top of the order guys here, it's really, it's not necessarily worth Manny Machado tonight because you can get decent matchup strength, comparable matchup strength at the position and save a bunch of money doing it. So it looks like I can save money at third base, save a little money at second base, certainly save money at shortstop. Now I can pay up at first base and get Votto. And if I ran a cheaper pitcher, Votto and Miggy. And if I go back here and show you, Votto and Miggy, 290-plus matchups. It beats the hell out of the 78 we were looking at. If I'm going to run a 78, I want to run him cheap. If I'm going to pay up, I better be buying some 90s. Now, again, Votto could go 0 for 4. Iglesias could hit 2 bombs. I don't freaking know. It's baseball. But the odds are Votto and Cabrera are better hitters than Iglesias. And Votto and Cabrera are in better matchups than even Moustakas. So you're going to want to slant the odds in your favor. And that's what this tool is allowing us to do, is really process this information and really cut it down to what we're looking for. We didn't look at outfield. I'm going to go a little deeper into outfield stuff. Because the position, we have to field 3 of them. But look, it gets down to the 80s pretty quick, the low 80s, the high 70s pretty quick. But if I focus, there's a couple of 90s. How expensive? Winker's not expensive. Castellanos isn't. Oh, oh my goodness. And your third guy is Schebler? Let's have a little fun. Let's see if we can do this. Oh, sorry to delay the train. Dang it. Sorry to delay the train and slow you down, but I really want to see something. Had an idea pop into the top of my head here on the main slate. If we go and run some kind of a contest, I mean, let's just do a placeholder lineup for free, just for the hell of it. And let's run one of the less expensive pitchers. Let's see, Severin, Godley, Keuchel, Nola, Ryu. Ryu looks pretty solid. Let's run Ryu out there. We already talked a little bit about him. Now let's go and grab Votto and see if we can do this. And Miggy, Winker, Schebler. I think Schebler was the guy, was he not? Schebler. We know we're going to want to run Suarez in there at the minimum. That's going to help us. Now I have 4 Reds, and I've got a Detroit guy coming in, Castellanos. Look at that. I'm still at 3,900 in average salary remaining. Castellanos right on average. Holy crap on a stick. Look at that lineup right now. Top rated and loaded in the outfield. Now at second base, third base, whatever, let's play. Second base and shortstop. These are the 2 pay down positions. But I've got all this money left over to spend. Right? Well, let's watch this. What if we pay down anyway? What the hell. We could take Moncada if we wanted to. We saw they were in a good spot. Lowry, LeMahieu, Jeanette. Can't take a 4th or 5th guy here. Whit Merrifield in Kansas City. Got a little power. Kipnis, top of the order. We talked about him. Cano, Kinsler, Kenrick, Wendell, Panic, Torres, Sean Rodriguez, Greg Garcia. We're getting down into the crap now, the crap pile. If I scroll back up here and take one of the cheaper guys, I can, you know what am I doing? Why not just use the research station, dummy? Kipnis. Kipnis, good spot tonight. Going to be hitting in the top of the order. Shortstop. I mean, I could run Machado if I wanted to and call it a day. I've got myself a pretty solid lineup. That's when you would pay up for Machados, when you have the money to do so. Look at this lineup is already rated very high. I've already done a pretty good job with it. If I scroll back down, Lindor again, DeYoung, Escobar, Tim Anderson, Segura, Kingery, Nunez if I wanted to take on some Boston, Simmons, Profar, Ahmed, Peraza, can't run another red. Dang, those reds are going to be everywhere. They might be all over tonight. All right, so we're going to go again with the cheapest top-rated guy at shortstop. This lineup isn't guaranteed to go off, but this lineup is interesting looking. Getting Votto and Miggy in there, but getting them stacked with top-rated guys is even better. Iglesias in Detroit. That's going to probably run me a little bit of a rap. There's Detroit. Iglesias, Miggy, Castellanos. Sorry for those alerts. Dadgum, guys, stop it. I said stop it. So if I took the punt and took Iglesias, and I'm doing this for a reason, now I've got 2,200 left over. I've got 10,000 for my pitcher. I was aiming for DeGrom. So if I wanted to run DeGrom and run the ace of the slate, I got to free up another $600. Where can I do? It's going to cost me my stack. Probably cost me Miggy or Castellanos. Might cost me Votto. Because now I got to scroll down here. Significantly less. Bell, Cron, Santana, not in a bad spot. Olsen, Pujols, Yonder, Alonso, Borg, Moreland. No. I'd rather run. They're worth it tonight. So if it costs me Castellanos, I can always find value in the outfield. Drop down 3,200. Use my research station. Go back to my outfield spots. 3,200-ish. I mean, I got a whole bunch to choose from here. You know, I could run Chris Taylor in LA. LA's in a good spot we saw. Oh, that hurts. But that's what you're going to end up doing if you want DeGrom. If you don't, you want to come down to Ryu or even run Severino. You run Ryu, you put Castellanos back in there. You probably take out, Iglesias. Go back, let's find your top-rated shortstop. I mean, I'm gunning for Machado. Technically third-rated, but we know what he can do. Lindor or Machado, take your pick. You really want to get freaky, run some Correa or something like that. But I'd probably just run Machado. And that lineup's okay. You got a one-off in Baltimore. You got Cincinnati stacked up. You got Detroit mini stacked. And you got one-off in Cleveland, one-off. Well, maybe you'd run Lindor, correlate those guys. Now I've got 2 Cleveland, 4 Cincinnati, and 2 Detroit. Not the worst thing you could do. There's just so many things that you can do. Guys, this is what I'm showing you. This is how you use these research tools to really go on, get in here and really start moving around. Okay? And you start using these position tabs to start ranking these guys and seeing who keeps sliding to the top. If you wanted to, you can kick out only the team. Let's say I wanted to only look at Detroit tonight. I've got to go turn off my outfield spot or my shortstop. When I turn it off, all of Detroit will come back in here. Now I can look at the DFSA grade, see how stacked up they are, see what kind of positions they're all in, right? If I want, now I know another thing here. I know I'm running against right-handed batters. So when I scroll all the way over, take a look at these things. I've got my StatCast info if I want. I've got my stats versus opponent handedness from the pitcher. I've got ballpark factors. I've got bullpen numbers. I can go blind on this stuff if I want to. You can see how superficial, how simple I am. I've got Vegas info when that becomes available. And they'll know. They'll tag us in Slack. Overall batting stats for these hitters. But what I wanted, I'm not facing a lefty. I'm facing a righty. So if I scroll over here to the right-handed numbers, I can sort by WRC+. And bring the guys up top that are producing the runs and creating the runs. There's Candelario, Cabrera, and Castellanos. We already said those were the guys to target, right? I can come down here to OBP. Who's getting on base? Sort that by ascending. I can run 350, 350, 340. That's okay. That's not great OBP, but when I run it with the ISOs here, OBP and ISOs OPS, or OBP and slug is OPS. So when I start running here, I can be looking at a bunch of 800 guys. So again, not great, but they're in such a good spot tonight because they're matching up against such a crappy pitcher. They should get boosts to these numbers. When their prices, when their DFS, another thing you hear me preach all the time, when their prices are based on those types of numbers, the 350 OBPs and the, the whatever, the slugs that are not, the OPSs that are 800-ish, then they're going to be priced down a little bit because the DFS sites are enticing you to take those guys for the savings, even though they're lesser quality guys. But when they slide in there against a bad pitcher like a Tillman, then they should outproduce those OBPs and outproduce those OPSs. Therefore, when they're priced according to their average and their price doesn't move a lot based on the matchup, they become a value play because they become somebody likely to outperform their averages. And when they outperform and outproduce their averages, you're getting more bang for your DFS buck, if that makes sense. These are the things we talk about, the concepts we talk about inside DFS Army all the time. Hope you enjoyed the tour a little bit. Hope you got a little bit of direction. We're running up on 40 minutes. I want to cut it loose and let it go. Read the article out here on Twitter. Follow me. Give me a like and a subscribe on YouTube. We'll try and keep these things down to a half hour, but you had 14 games to process. I gave you a complete slate breakdown, gave you a little tip on the Express, little tips on the late night, showed you a little bit, talked a little theory as far as stacking against the chalk and whatnot, and then showed you our research station, which is a beast of a tool to quickly process and narrow down 14 games worth of information. You can't go wrong being a VIP inside DFS Army. Use the code CHOP. It knocks 10% off the price of your admission or your subscription or whatever you want to call it. Grandfathered in. If you don't leave us, your price never goes up, even if ours does. Come football season, it's going to go up. Get in now. Play baseball with us. Keep your price as low as it possibly can be for the remainder of your career in DFS. You're going to need a provider site like this someday anyway because they're all going premium. There's very little free information out there anymore unless you're willing to do hours and hours with the legwork. Let us do the legwork. Let us process the information. Let us provide you the tool that will allow you to cut through the noise and get to the skinny as quickly as possible. That's what we do. And our Slack channels are always full of coaching and feedback where guys are answering questions, giving you some tips that they see and that they thought of. And the winning track record absolutely speaks for itself. All you need to do is come here to our Wall of Wins page. Spend a couple minutes looking at the winners we've popped from 25 grand to 100 grand to 200 grand or 20,000. I guess that one was a three-way. That same night we popped three $20,000 winners in the same night. We've got 250 and we got a $300,000 winner in our history. 100,000 here to first. You guys. We got guys winning. We got guys winning $50 a night. We got guys winning thousands a night. Happens every night inside DFS Army. Tell them Chop sent you with the code CHOP. I'll see you on the inside. If you get in now and you get in here in the next few hours, you're not going to have any problem processing the information and getting on the slate tonight. Put the tools to work for you. Put the coaching to work for you. Become a better DFS player today. I'm your buddy Chopadong. This is Chop Talk. I out.